month. I had never even earned more than $4,000 to $5,000 a month prior to that. And to go from 4,000 to 5,000 a month to six figures in a month in 60 days, that's called a quantum leap. As many of you guys have known up to this point, most likely now, that the late great mentor of mine, Bob Proctor, and mentor to many of you, has passed on. But this video is not to mourn and feel sad, but actually to talk about his legacy and the things that he has shared with me that has changed my life, and now I pass on to you. So, guys, if you want to learn the 5 things that Bob Proctor shared with me that took me from sleeping in a car, sleeping on couches, and sleeping on an air mattress to becoming a 7-figure entrepreneur at the age of 25. I'm talking about when I first met Bob Proctor, guys. I was sleeping in my car. 60 days later, 60 days after meeting Bob Proctor, I had my very first 6-figure month. And these are some of the principles that I'll be teaching you in this video. So here's my big promise. At the end of this video, you're going to have 5 actionable steps that you can also implement yourself, whether you're just getting started off in business at 19 years old and you don't know what to do, or you're already, well on your way to a 7-figure or 8-figure business. These are principles that you can also apply on your personal development journey that will begin to change everything for you. And if you stick to the end, I'll also talk about the opportunity to also work with myself and the late great Bob Proctor in one of our coaching programs. And so without further ado, let's hop into the video. My name is DeAndre Saxton, and if this is the very first time you're watching me, I have been studying directly under the late, great Bob Proctor for the last 2 years of my life. I met him right when I was turning 24, and I just turned 26 a few days ago. And Bob changed my life. As I talked about in the intro, when I first met Bob in Los Angeles, I was actually sleeping in my car at that Paradigm Shift event in 2020. And 60 days, less than 60 days, after meeting Bob Proctor, starting with him, learning this material, learning the 5 things I want to share with you right now, I had my very first $100,000 month. I had never even earned more than $4,000 to $5,000 a month prior to that. And to go from 4,000 to 5,000 a month to 6 figures in a month in 60 days, that's called a quantum leap. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the couple of things that I've learned from Bob that you can also implement today. So let's talk about step number 1. Step number 1 is the concept of the goal card. Now, what is the goal card? I actually have an example of one of them right here. What is a goal card? A goal card is this. It's not good enough just to have a goal. There's a couple things that you need to have. Some of you are thinking right now, why do I need to have a goal, or why do I need to learn about goal setting? If that's what you're thinking, I feel you, because I remember being at that event in the Paradigm Shift seminar Bob had in LA, thinking, I've been an entrepreneur for 4 years. Why do I need to go learn about how to set goals? But if I was honest with myself, I had not achieved any of the goals that I actually set. If anything, I was actually going backwards. So I actually didn't know how to set goals, nor did I know how to achieve them until I met Bob. And so the first thing that Bob said is, you have to get very clear on what is it that you want. If you were to ask most people, they don't know what they want. They say, I want to earn more money. I want to be happy. But what does that mean? The mind needs to have a very clear image of what it is that you want. So what you got to do is be specific. What do you want? If it's money, what's the specific amount that you want? And now that what you need to do is, once you get the specific amount, it's not good enough just to have it in your mind. You have to write it down. But just having it written down somewhere at your house is still not good enough. You need to write it down on a little card, and you got to carry that card with you at all times. This is one of the biggest things that changed my life after meeting the late great Bob Proctor. And this is actually my personal goal card right here that I always carry with me since at the age of 24, first meeting Bob Proctor. You will always see me with a card like this that tells me the direction in which I'm going in my life. Now, what kind of goal you might be thinking? I've talked about a couple of videos in the past. Make sure you look at maybe check out my other videos that I have. Subscribe to me and kind of look at the videos where we talk a lot more about how to set a goal. But really briefly, you want to set what we call a C-type goal. A C-type goal is a fantasy, something that you want. You see, if you're writing on your goal, something that you know how to do it, or you have a plan, that's not a goal. You see, a goal is not to get. A goal is to grow. That's the word straight out of Bob Proctor's mind. So when you write down that goal, it's got to be a fantasy. You should be scared of moving in the direction of your goal because you don't know how to get it. If you're scared, you're on the right track, because now you're leaving space for abundance, the quantum field, source, God to come in and do something grand in your life, like what happened to me, going from 0 to 6 figures a month in less than 60 days. So you got to write down a fantasy, and I'll go ahead and read my goal card so you can see an example of what that looks like. You read it in the present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now that money flows to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis to the frequency of a $10 million a year company. So that would be a goal that would be really grand and scares me to death. All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about number two. So number two is this, the stick figure. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll maybe put it on the side here somewhere. And so this is an example of what we call the stick figure. Now, for some of you, it might look very simple. You may have seen it, may not have, but I'll cover it really briefly. Let me tell you, this stick figure completely changed my life, and it's what turned me into not only earning 7 figures by the age of 25, but will turn me into a multi-millionaire, and will do the same for you if you learn and apply this principle. So the concept of the stick figure says this, that what you want to do is you have to understand that there's multiple parts to the mind. You see this upper half that you're going to see up here. The upper half is called the conscious mind. Think of it as your thinking mind, or your analytical mind, the mind you're using right now to watch me. You're taking notes. You're processing what I'm saying. Then you have a second part of your mind, the lower half, which is called the subconscious mind, or your emotional mind, or what we would like to call your spiritual mind. You see, whatever you impress on your subconscious mind, it believes it is real. And whatever is impressed upon it will be expressed through what we call the body, which is going to be the lower half that you see there. The body, this thing that we call a body, is literally a physical instrument to whatever we hold in the mind. And whatever actions or habits or whatever we do with this body of ours will always act 100% in alignment with the ideas that we hold in our mind. You see, it changed my life because I was a smart guy. I graduated with a 3.8 in high school, and I was the kind of guy where I would memorize right before a test and then regurgitate what I remember, and I would pass with a B minus or B plus, A minus, and that's how I kind of BS my way through school. Then I tried to do the same in business. I remember reading books, watching a lot of personal development videos like this, and I had a lot of knowledge, especially about marketing and funnels and how to build a business. But yeah, I wasn't getting results because I was feeling my conscious mind. Now, we're not going to go into too much details about this. Make sure you subscribe below. That way you can get more details. But we'll talk about the stick figure in a lot more depth. But what I learned from Bob was that subconscious mind of mine was really what was controlling 95% of my results. And when I learned how to speak to it, how to change it, man, I literally, when my first 6-figure month, by the way, I literally earned it in about 17 days. Tell me how a kid, well, I was a kid. I'm still a kid. I'm 26. That I never earned more than $80,000 in 5 years. 5 years, I never earned more than $80,000. Then I meet Bob and I earn $100,000 in about 2 weeks. Why? Because of that subconscious mind. Make sure you subscribe below, and we'll talk more about that in another video. All right, so let's get on to number 3. By the way, what's been your biggest takeaway so far? Drop it in the chat. What is something that you're loving so far? Share with the community, because guys, this is a YouTube channel, but no, we're a community. I'm just building this YouTube channel, but guys, there's so many people, clients that I've trained. I've trained thousands of entrepreneurs across Zoom calls, across seminars and events, and now we're over here building the YouTube channel. So leave a comment in below. What's been your biggest takeaway so far? All right, so let's hop into number 3, the biggest concept that I learned from Bob Proctor, which is the idea of the paradigm and the paradigm shift. So what is a paradigm? Really briefly, a paradigm is a multitude of your habits. Think of it as your mental conditioning or your mental programming. So you have this set of ideas or habits or unconscious beliefs about yourself, and you start to do it. If you right now were to actually look at yourself right now, you're probably sitting in a position or writing in a position or doing something habitual that you were been doing in the past. You see, our bodies are literally programmed to operate day to day in certain habits. For most of us, those habits are not set up for us to make money, be successful, and think positive. That's why for some of us, we gather so much information. We try to set new habits. We try to wake up early, try to go to the gym, try to, stop, watching pornography. We try to do all these different habits that are to our detriment. But then within a week or 2 or 3, we fall back. Why? Because it's not what you know, It's how you're programmed, and until you change that program, nothing will shift for you. So that was the number three thing that I took from Bob. See, it wasn't just good enough to understand you had a paradigm; you had to understand how to shift the paradigm, and that's exactly what we do inside of our coaching program. So a little bit later, we'll be talking about that, how you can actually get started. If you look at the link in the description below, we have a coaching program where for 6 months we teach you how to shift that paradigm or that program, and when you literally lift that paradigm or shift it, it's like changing the thermostat in your house. Let's just say you have it set on the heater, then you turn it to air conditioning. It's like within a couple minutes, your entire room will shift to the temperature. That's what happens when you shift your paradigm. That's how I went from 0 to 6 figures a month in less than 60 days because I had shifted that paradigm. So make sure you look at the description below and you can kind of get some more details on that. Look at the step number 1, step number 2, or step number 3. All right, so let's learn about number 4. What was the fourth thing that I learned from Bob Proctor that completely changed my life? And it was the concept of studying every single day. Man, I'm so grateful for my mentor. He had changed my life. And one of the biggest things, let me tell you a quick little story. So my mentor, Bob, I had paid for a coaching program with him. And in this coaching program was $18,000, right? So I was already, well on my way to, doing very well per month. So I decided to pay 18 grand to join his inner circle. And here's one funny thing about this. I studied with Bob for 3 months in his inner circle. It was maybe less than 20 people in it. And in this program, I thought I was going to learn so much because the program was set around learning the things that Bob Proctor was studying. And here's what happened. In 3 months, all we did was study 2 different articles. Yes. So in a matter of 3 months, every single day, it was twice a day, twice a week we met. We studied the same paragraph, not book, not lesson, paragraph. Like I'm talking about like one paragraph. And we study that every single day, twice a week for 3 months. And I paid 18 grand for that. Now, some of you might be laughing like, why would I study the same paragraph for $18,000? I want my money back. But no, it was one of the biggest lessons I learned from Bob Proctor. You got to study every single day, but not just study random information. You got to master and study one thing. You see, one of the things that we get out in the world is people tell us that we need to read multiple books, right? Nothing wrong with the names. Like the guys like Ty Lopez and Gary Vee, they're like, read a book a day and massive action. But Bob was not a guy of massive action in one direction. Bob would read one book. He's famous for reading the book Think and Grow Rich. And he has been reading that his entire life. But one thing I learned from Bob is Bob will read the same paragraph for months on end until he fully understands it. One thing I learned from Bob is you don't fully understand something until you can share it to somebody else so that they can understand it. And it's not simply understanding, you have to actually implement it, right? Remember we talked about that idea of the paradigm, right? Knowing something but actually doing it is 2 different things. That's where this falls in. By studying every single day, and the same thing, you're not only able to understand it consciously, you can actually understand it subconsciously. And so that was something that I really took away from Bob Proctor that has shifted me in a habit that I have still do to this day and will continue to do the rest of my life. And the fifth and final thing, but before we go ahead and do that, make sure you subscribe below, guys. I know you're loving this content because you're still watching the video. And I think this is the biggest one that I got from my mentor. So make sure you subscribe below. Make sure you go ahead and leave a like as well because we are growing this community and we're growing this channel. And quite simply, I'd love to know your guys' feedback, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's hop into the very fifth and final one. Bob taught us how. Now you might be asking me, what do you mean, DeAndre? Bob taught us how to apply personal development. And I think this was the biggest thing. But most importantly, he did this in our coaching program. Now, this is not a pitch to join the coaching program. If it does make sense to you, like I said, we have all the links in the description below. But here's the biggest thing. Bob, what he did, not only for me and our clients, but or if you've taken any of his coaching programs, was think of all the books, right? He's been doing this industry for 60 years. He took all of this information and he would focus it towards one specific action so that you would get tangible results, know how to apply it, and actually start to feel good about yourself. You see, I was reading a bunch of books, and if you're into personal development, if you're watching this video, you have read a lot of books like, Think and Go Rich or How to Win Friends, Influence People, all this different stuff. And you get a lot of information, you're highlighting, and you go take action for a little bit. But what Bob did was he took all these books And he said, here's what you need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way until you have built a 6 or 7 figure business, until you went out there and got what you wanted in your life. You became successful. What is success? Progressive realization of a worthy ideal. You started to move towards a direction and you achieved it, not with effort, not with gathering more information, but by becoming that person. Bob taught us how to apply personal development so that you get results. And it's changed my life. It's changed the lives of countless of my clients. We were last night on our coaching call that I had with my clients. We were going around the bend, kind of talking about how Bob changed our life. And there were stories that, some of them I haven't even heard yet because, I have hundreds of clients. And clients were telling me last night that when they first met Bob, they were, or when they first started in our coaching program, that they had to start on credit card. I started on a credit card as well with Bob, that within their first 2 months, they were having $50,000 months. There was people that I remember when I did their sales call, their coaching call to get them in the program, that they were sleeping on couches, living with their parents. And, I have so many people, so many clients now that later on, a year, 2 years later, I'm speaking to them again, and they manifested their dream house. They have a mortgage now. They have their dream job. They bought their dream Tesla. And I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. There was another guy that they started with me. They didn't pay rent for 2 months. And within 2 to 3 months, they had their first $40,000 a month. And I was like, wow, it's not just me that my life changed. It was all of us. That Bob taught us not just to gather information, but he taught us how to apply it. And that was the biggest thing that not only impacted me, my clients, I think it will impact you as well. So guys, like that's what I have for you. Like I said, if you want to learn more about our coaching program, look at I think it's the first, right? There's a couple steps that you can look in the description. You can either join our Telegram group where I have a podcast. I think that's number 2. Number 1 is to book a call with me so we can actually see, does it make sense for you to join a personal development program that specifically teaches you how to apply principles like these 5 here to get results. And I think number 3 is just look at the description below. Like I said, don't worry about it. But the biggest thing was that Bob, he was a legend. At the time, he was a living legend. He was the Napoleon Hill of our age. Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. He was a legend. His legacy will live on, not only through people like me that used to work with him, study with him, but through many of you, people that watch his content, understand the things that he taught us. And the more you keep this information in your mind, the more you become successful with it. That's the best thing that you can do to honor Bob. Because if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's videos and sticking to the end. Subscribe, look at this information in the description, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.